After years of bad luck, Dave finally got a highlight. Mackerel bait just dropped. 2 tuna fish in a row. It makes Dave, who hasn't had anything in days, so excited that I almost jumped into the sea to take a few bites of my own fish. He fought the crew for 2 hours to get to the surface. Unfortunately, we find tuna, not up to the government's fishing size. Looks like his bad luck continues. It's like an old sow on a tree, the only one. Captain Jack of the Time flies. Set foot again on yesterday's fishing spot. Fishing here beats Chatham. You don't have to go on expensive trips to stay close to home and save a lot of silver. If I can catch tuna and make a little extra money to be cool. It's 9 a.m. on the Evil Pizza. There are 2 people who miss tuna. It's been more than half a month since the season began. Toil every day at sea. Only 1 tuna was caught. Makes Paul wonder whether he and Doug are really fit for the job. I remember last year when Ricky won the championship. Now that Ricky's gone, he's the last. Be it a loss. The sudden bite of the tuna. The rod bends, and the surprise is instantaneous. The smiles spread across their faces. Doug's hand speed jumped. I promised to pull the tuna to the surface quickly, but Doug sensed something was wrong. The tuna that comes to the surface is small, just under 5 feet, not in compliance with government fishing regulations. Left both men bitter in their hearts. If it weren't for the cameras, the windmill is currently ranked very well. As long as the luck lasts, they are expected before the end of the season. Successfully won the championship this year. Captain Marcia of the Hard Commodity found the bait in dire condition. Half of her body was lost in a bite. The wound looks like swordfish work. Swordfish are rumored to be on par with tuna. Both are among the fastest in the ocean. Cannot help but wonder how swordfish meet quality, whether it tastes extra strong. Then Marcia had an idea. It's a beautiful picture for Joe and Jason. If the tuna catch breaks the old record, even bigger than OTT's giant fish, each will receive an additional $500 prize. I don't know how these 2 people feel. Suddenly, the detector shows fish at 178 feet. Marcia quickly relishes the news to Joe and Jason. The 2 men watched their fishing rods warily. Joe was thrilled when he saw the pole bend violently, shouting, "Fish on! Fish on!" When Jason grabbed his fishing rod, he found there was a fishing boat in the same direction that the tuna fled. When Mesha learned of this, he immediately steered the ship away, lest the bottom of that boat cut the line. Jason's fighting his way back to the line. The tuna was pulled a dozen meters closer. It's about to surface, but the process has been lengthy. He pulled for more than half an hour without success. After Marcia took over the fishing pole, I struggled with this for half an hour. After Jason took over the fishing rod again. Fortunately, the tuna is exhausted by now, floating slowly on the surface of the water. Marcia picked up the harpoon and stabbed. After a successful hit, the tuna fled again. Marcia smiled slyly as she watched the escaping fish. I was like, this guy's tough. After the second shot, the men quickly tied the tail to the stern. This tuna fishing is no slouch. The fish tried to escape at the last minute. The tuna cooled in the ocean for an hour. He pulled the fish into the boat. The tuna was measured to be 2.6 m tall. Broke his own best record. 2 young men are about to be rewarded. Marcia is prepared to offer $1,000 this time. The 2 returned to port. Found a new receiver. Local farmer's market. It's more profitable to sell here than to Rick for a few more dollars. But selling tuna here is a struggle. You need to handle your own core and fishtail, and remove the useless parts. The final weight was 432 pounds, 196 kilograms. It surpassed the previous record. Still not past OTT's fish. Got to hand it to Marcia for her sophistication. The fish is dark red. Rich and fat, the fish looks fat and beautiful. The core is translucent and cherry red. So far, this tuna has been very good. So we can fix the price at $15. Damn it, I was fooled by this pretty sister. I thought the fish was really that good, but the trio ended up making $6,480. The captain of the fat tuna found out, followed by 3 whales and some crazy fans. These fans are something of a cult following. Bob's a little nervous now. He was worried when they were serving the fish. The fan sailed closer for a closer look. Then the tuna will probably run away. I wonder if Bob's thinking too much. Learn more about those two guys in the back. They have no mood swings. All I know is the mackerel bait. When that ship leaves, Bob reclined back in his seat. That's when the tuna bites the hook. But John noticed that the fish was swimming towards the bow. Bob was frightened to hear this. Why did that fish go here? If we cut the line across the bow, restart the ship and begin to turn around, follow the tuna back to the stern. Manny picked up the fishing rod and began to exert himself, determined to pull this little trash fish on board. But there was something unusual about the resistance from the fishing rod. Doesn't feel like a 5'5" fish, although the line goes out very fast. The fishing rod bends like this. But when the tuna came to the surface, you can clearly see that this fish is not really big. This seems to be at odds with the government's fishing regulations. But on closer inspection, it seems to fit. To make sure the fish meets the criteria, several people choose to pull the tuna on board first. Bring the fish up behind the deck. It was measured and found to be just 1.85 meters, just in line with government regulations. Night fell and the fat tuna returned to port. Start selling this recently caught fish. But the faces of the three men were somewhat embarrassed. After all, being a veteran fisherman for years, I can't believe I caught such a small tuna. After removing the useless parts, the tuna weighed 216 pounds and about 98 kilograms. If the fish is of poor quality, that would barely break even today. Fortunately, the meat of this fish is of excellent quality. Adiposity. The core has a beautiful cherry red color, loved by those who live a good life. It sells for $18 a pound. In the end, the trio made $3,888. Deduct all expenses for the day. Bob was just about to make $1,000 more. 6:30 a.m. on a new day. A thick fog surrounded the evil pizza. They could barely see where the whales were. But fortunately, we can still hear some subtle movements. As Paul brought the boat to a steady stop, Doug begins to set up mackerel bait, trying to catch tuna here. The tuna net is currently at the top of the list, but continue to maintain that position. Can't let up one bit. So they chose this fishing spot. This is the key to their title. The second highest number of hard goods. We're only $1,000 behind them. Marcia caught a tuna today. That was enough for them to take first place. I must catch a fish myself to preserve that precarious position. Then the detector suddenly sounded an alarm. The fishing rod got caught in the tuna, and both poles were bitten at the same time. 2 tuna in one fell swoop. I wonder if they'll take all the fish back, or just take the big ones. Dave and Jody start a confrontation with tuna. The fish in the sea are really fierce. They wound the fishing lines together. Fortunately, both men are sober, know how to change the position to unhook the line. However, according to the feedback of the fishing rod, the fish seems smaller to Jody. Dave asked Sandro to take over from the side. He stood nearby and watched the fish pulled to the surface. That's when Jody's tuna surfaced. Well, it's a little fish and they've given up. Sandro on the other side caught a big fish. Unfortunately, it does not meet the government's fishing regulations. It was all for nothing. Jack, the captain of the Time Flies, was upset. It's been over a day. Not even a hint of tuna in sight. The fishing rod in Jack's hand caught a plastic bag full of seawater. You can't run into a bag that far from shore. How do you digest a fish bite? It must be someone with no quality, caused by carelessly discarded garbage. These people really don't know that the earth belongs to everyone. The current ranking of Moonshine is quite good. This makes Spotty, the father of Tuna, very proud. The new member of the ship, Vaughn. The performance is also excellent. If only he'd familiarized himself with the work. It is not impossible to hit the first place. There's just something special about Vaughn's little buddy. He wants to fight Tuna himself now. As Vaughn gazed at the fishing rod, with a sudden force, the tuna bent the pole. Ryan was scared to death. Almost didn't catch the fishing rod. The tuna almost got away with it. Ryan sighed as he looked at the extended line. It's been there for almost half an hour. Must be a big fish to be that powerful. He decided to let his little brother Vaughn take over just in case. It would give Vaughn what he wants. Even if the tuna escapes, it's not your fault. You can kill many birds with one stone. Ryan, you're a very thoughtful boy. Fortunately, it's not so bad. Know to be there to guide Vaughn. Judging from the current situation, this Vaughn boy is doing pretty well. It doesn't take long to pull the tuna to the boat, although the fish are still struggling in the water. But for a novice, it's a feat. After an hour of fighting, Ryan took over the fishing rod again. The battle with tuna begins in earnest. After 10 minutes of intense pulling, Ryan gradually gained the upper hand. The tuna came to the surface and slowly approached. Vaughn and Spotty lay in wait with harpoons in hand. I see Tuna on the side of the boat. Spotty quickly threw the harpoon. After a hit, immediately tie the anchor rope up. After 2 hours of hard work, they finally caught today's tuna. Looks like Vaughn's skills need a little more work. Otherwise, it wouldn't have taken 2 hours. The tuna was measured to be 2.5 meters long, a fish that meets government catch regulations. Pretty good for a rookie's first fish. Doug, crew member of the Evil Pizza. Looking at the whales on the sea, I wondered, 12 whales, but no tuna. Makes him question his old story. The appearance of whales means the appearance of tuna, whether it is accurate or not. After all, you see these whales every day, but not a single tuna fell. The fish we caught before were small, just over $3,000. Thinking of this, Paul decided to go home first, do some preparation and research. What's wrong with the tuna? It's frustrating not to catch fish for days on end. The Moonshine returned to port after nightfall. Start selling today's tuna catch. Although little brother Vaughn spent a lot of time fishing, but eventually they managed to catch tuna. The fish weighed 328 pounds and 149 kilograms. Remove the core and the fish tail. The buyer said the fish was of high quality, has a beautiful core and color. The fat is also fairly evenly distributed. It is very popular in the market. It sells for $15 a pound. Sure enough, I knew about the old man. He only says what sounds good. The actual unit price is not so high, but they still made $4,920. The third day of this episode arrives. Jack, captain of the Time, flies to chat him again with Nick and set up 5 fishing rods here. Looks like they decided to abandon their previous strategy. No wonder we haven't caught any tuna for 2 days. Can only come back here. Now the fishing rod is caught by the tuna. Why does the nearest tuna sneak in? Maybe their detectors are broken. The ship's radar detectors are unresponsive. Move the fish rod to the back of the bow. Jack asked Nick to step in and take over. He returned to the cockpit to control the hull. Nick felt the resistance on the rod, and how bent the carbon fiber rods are. Sure, it's a big fish. The fishing line can be torn if one mistake is made. If such a big tuna can be caught, I'm gonna make a lot of money. No. Nick sensed something was wrong. Being tricked by this tuna. This fish is not big, just energetic. After Jack took over the fishing rod, confirms what Nick said. Looks like this kid's skills need honing. I can't judge the target in the first place. As the tuna surfaced, Jack quickly picked up the harpoon and plunged it down. It all happened so fast. Even the harpoon breaks in the blink of an eye. The photographer didn't even catch it. Fortunately, the tuna did not escape. Gave Nick a chance to make up for it. After hitting the target again, the 2 men began a fixed operation process. To be honest, this tuna is really good. Both young men are having a hard time coping. If not for props, it's hard to catch them with your bare hands. Finally, the 2 men pulled the tuna on board. Measurements showed it was 2.57 meters long. The surface of the tuna must be quite smooth, or Nick wouldn't be touching so much. They hoisted the tuna immediately after returning to port. Let the acquirer evaluate and weigh. After Rick weeded out the useless parts, the fish weighed 418 pounds or 190 kilograms. The texture of the fish looks pretty good, but the old den's back to his swagger, despite all the nice stuff. But this time he points out that fish is slightly lower in fat. Looks like they may not be able to command a high price for their tuna. But the buyer eventually offered $18 a pound. They made $7,524. I'm a little confused about this old den. After 3 days of effort, the hard commodities drove the tuna nets down. He won first place by $6. Well, that's all for this program. Give it a thumbs up, and let's look forward to the next episode.